In this video, I wanted to share with you a few of the new features that we've incorporated here into Easystone 4 and give you kind of an update on what our plans are in regards to releasing version 4. Here in a few weeks, we're going to be releasing version 4. This will be the first official version that will work with both CorelDRAW X7 32-bit as well as the 64-bit version of CorelDRAW X7. This will also incorporate the use of CorelDRAW X6 in 64-bit mode if you so choose. So version 4 will work with both X6 and X7 in 64-bit mode. Now, the current version of Easystone will also work with X7 for those of you who may want to test it out with X7. However, it would only work with the 32-bit version of X7. This would be version 3.2. Now, for those of you who don't know, you can install both the 32-bit and 64-bit versions of CorelDRAW on your computer at one time. No issues there. And anyone who's purchased CorelDRAW has the ability to download both the 32-bit and 64-bit. If you need help with that, we're happy to help with that. If you're interested in using version 3.2 with CorelDRAW X7, feel free to give us a call or drop us a Facebook message or email or something, and we're happy to work with you one-on-one setting that up with CorelDRAW X7. But know that version 4 is coming down the pipeline here, and it will have native support for X7 as well. With the current version, we have to kind of do a little bit of a manual step to get it to function with X7. It's not a big deal, but it's probably easy for us to just log onto your computer and do it for you and make sure everything's set up to work correctly. So what our plan is for version 4 here in a few weeks, we're going to be releasing version 4. We're going to have a 2-month demo like we've always had with Easystone. So for those of you who are using our current version and would consider an upgrade, you'll have a 2-month trial with all the new features in version 4, and then to determine whether or not you feel like upgrading. There will be an upgrade fee. We don't know what that upgrade fee is actually going to be yet, but there will be some type of paid upgrade to go from version 3.2 to version 4. Now, for those of you who are Design of the Day members, of course, all upgrades to Easystone are free to you, so you would not have an upgrade fee. But for those of you who have actually purchased an Easystone license and want to possibly upgrade, there would be some type of upgrade fee. So with that said, let's take a look at some of these new features. Now, we're not going to cover everything that is new because there's quite a few different functions in here, but there are some new functions that I think you'll really appreciate. And once you fully grasp of what you can actually do with these functions, I think you'll appreciate it even more. One of the functions that we've added is the SEL button here in the main form. And what this allows us to do, and I think you'll find that this will be really quite useful. I know I've been using it for a little while now, and I'm just in love with it. A lot of times when I'm working in a rhinestone design, sometimes it's complicated for me to select large parts of my design. I know what I want to select, but it would be easier for me to select in smaller chunks, this piece and that piece and this piece, and then I could select all of those individual selections together at once and do something with it. And it's difficult to explain exactly how it works, but let me just kind of show you what we're doing here. So what we can do is we can make a selection and we can hit the SEL button, and then we can make another part of our selection and hit the SEL button. And I can even go back and reselect some of what I had selected previously, and we'll hit select again. And now when I right click, watch what happens. All those individual selections I made are now available to me as one selection. So like I said, a lot of times it's difficult to, in a big design that's really super complicated, I can select smaller parts more easily and then right click, and I can pick up all those individual selections that I am essentially saving, and then I want to pick them all up at once. And that's what this function does. So every time we make a selection and save it, we make a selection and save it. Now I want to pick all those selections up by right clicking, and now I can do something with those as one unit. So I think you'll find Once you understand exactly how that function works, I think you'll find it quite useful. Now let's take a look at another couple little examples here. I'm going to draw out a little circle, and what I'm going to do here is something you see me do a lot. I'm going to create a little peace sign. So first things first, I'm going to set my stone size to 10s. We'll do hot pink and we'll hit add stones. I'm then going to select that and hit CVH. That adds a guideline right down dead center. Now you can see I have a stone right there at the bottom, right here at the top. So let's go ahead and delete our stone paths. Now, here's something that I think you'll find quite interesting. I'm going to delete half of this because it's symmetrical. No point in doing double the work. What I want to do here, though, is something that I do quite a bit. I want to create a set of stones vertically here. But what I want to do is I want to go from this 10 to a 6. And we have a really neat new feature. You know, currently what we would do is we would copy it down, we would resize it, we would reposition it, and just basically have to do it all by eye. And so I thought, well, what if we had a function in Easystone that would do that automatically? Because that is something that I do so frequently, what if we had a function in Easystone that did it for us? So what I thought we would do is come in here into our advanced offset options. Now this is our island fill options, but we already had these functions where we could go from 6 to 10 with our offsets. And so what we've added is these nudge buttons. So what I want to do is I want to go from 10 to 6 and I nudge it down, and you can see now that spacing is already perfect for us, and this stone of course is now SS6 in size. So then I'd come down here and I nudge that up, and now I have those perfect offsets. So now I can select these two and hit add stones. And so now I have my perfectly vertical row of 6s. Now what I want to do is something a little bit different. I want to go from 6 to 10. So I would choose the 6 to 10 option because now I want a set of 10s as well. So then I can just move this all the way up, just like I want there. And then I can come down here, grab that stone, hold my shift key and right click to make a duplicate. And now I've got this. And now what I can do, of course, so I can just come in here and hit add stones. And it just adds a line of stones along those 6s. And now basically I want to do the same type of thing. I want to come in here and I'm just going to actually just select these two and hit add stones. And let's just say I want to do something like that. Okay. So that kind of explains how that new stone offset is going to work. Now I should point out one other thing for you, just so you know how this is working. Right now we have an SS10 stone selected, but if I said to go from 16 to 6 and hit the nudge, it wouldn't let me. It would say, please select a shape of SS16 in size. So it knows that this is a 10. It knows I can't go from 16 to 6 because I don't have a 16 selected. So there is a little bit of a catch there for you if you accidentally select one of those different options. Now, another thing that I'm really excited about is our new mirror function. And I want to show you something just so that you're aware of it if this situation ever comes up to you. If I were to draw I'm just going to draw a little curve and add some stones. So we'll hit add stones. And now I'm just going to rotate this curve a little bit. So I'm going to rotate the curve a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and delete our stone paths. Now, what if I wanted to mirror this? Okay, so I'm going to mirror this using CorelDRAW to mirror it. And notice what happens here in CorelDRAW. We get this weird thing happening here. All right, and obviously that's not something that we want to have happen. And the reason that these circles are being skewed is because, as far as I'm concerned, it's a bit of a bug in CorelDRAW that's existed really forever, and that because we rotated some of those objects, that's why when we go to mirror, CorelDRAW kind of throws it for a little bit of a loop. So anyhow, it's kind of frustrating and complicated. So let's talk about mirroring something. Now, when I do design work, I do quite a bit of designs that are symmetrical. And in fact, if you look at a lot of the designs out there in the marketplace, you'll look and see that the design itself should be symmetrical, but often they're not. And that's just, because the designer didn't really think, and so they wound up designing double. So like hearts are symmetrical, crosses most likely symmetrical. There's lots of different types of things that are symmetrical. And so as part of that, what we would do is we would design half of a design and then we would mirror it. So let me show you basically what we would do in CorelDRAW. In CorelDRAW, we would simply select our design. We would grab our control handle. We would hit our control key, flip it over, right click to make a duplicate. Then we would have to come in and go from center of stone to center of stone. And then we'd have all these stones on top of stones in the middle. So then we would hit check spacing. It would find that there's 36 objects overlapped. And there we would have our finished design. Okay, so not terribly complicated, but surely there's an easier way. And anytime I find myself doing something over and over and over again, I think, well, you know what, it's just better that we have a function to take care of that for us without having to go over and over and over and over and over again. So what I've done is I've created a new mirror function. And even if the stones are rotated, like we saw before with CorelDRAW, we saw that using the mirror function in CorelDRAW, if we have stones that are rotated, that's going to cause you an issue. So what we've done here in Easystone, we've overcome that issue so that even if something was rotated, it's not going to cause an error. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So what we can do here is we can make a selection. Now, what we need to do is we need to tell Easystone where we want the mirror point to be. And there's two different ways to do that. We can select a stone and hit the target button. Then we can select what we want to mirror and hit the mirror button. And it'll mirror it. Okay? And when we do our check spacing, you'll also see that there are no overlapping stones once we're complete. So how sweet is that? So definitely much easier than doing it manually in CorelDRAW. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Another way to do it, if we don't have something targeted, another way to do it is we can make a selection, and whatever the last object is that we selected, that now becomes the mirror point. So what I would do is I've just come in here and I've selected everything, and now I'm going to hold the shift key down and deselect one stone and reselect it again. And now that will become our mirror point. Okay, so just to illustrate a different scenario, if we were to do something like this. Okay, so I've created a series of stones, and I'm going to decide this is going to become my mirror point, this stone right here in the middle. So I could target that, select my design, and when I mirror, you can see it's mirrored at that pivot point, basically right there. So I think you'll find that that will be quite useful. It's just to let any less step there is. Now remember, before I'm going to rotate these stones. So remember before, when we use the mirror function here in CorelDRAW, we get a very skewed result because these stones have been rotated. However, I'm going to target that stone as my mirror pivot point, and when I mirror in Easystone, we don't have that type of distortion. It just goes ahead and mirrors it like we would expect it to. So just a little bit extra smarts there if his stones are rotated, that we don't get those types of unexpected results. Now we should share one more item for you. So we're going to select the whole design. We're going to unselect by holding our shift key and clicking on that one end stone and then re-clicking it. If we right click, it'll mirror vertically. So now you can see that it becomes the new mirror pivot point, and we've mirrored that vertically. So left click, we're going to mirror horizontally, which is our most common. And then right click, we can also mirror vertically as well. And we can target using the target. We can specify a pivot point with our target button or the last selected stone. That becomes the pivot point with the mirror function. So I think you're really going to find that that mirror function is quite useful because I use it all the time now. And it's just, instead of doing all those individual steps manually, with just one click of a button, we can mirror. It checks for overlapping stones and everything automatically for us. All right, so one last feature I want to discuss in this video that I'm pretty excited about, and that is some new offset functionality. So I want to go through this with you. So let me just show you just with a real basic shape. So real basic shape, what I want to do is I want to do 6 offsets. Okay. And we're going to do SS10s, and we're going to go to the inside. So we have an open path. And when we use this function on an open path, and I hit the down arrow, what's going to happen is it's going to offset 6 times for us. So you can see here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, and of course then we can go in and add stones, and you can see it gives us a perfect arrangement of stones. So I think that will be a nice little addition for us. So let me go ahead and delete all of these again. And obviously, if we hit the up arrow, then what it does is it offsets to the outside. So we can just draw our circle, our little shape here. And so if I do 6, and we hit the up arrow, then of course, you'll see that it offsets to the outside of that shape 6 times. Now, we also have the option to offset both inside and outside. So again, we have our original curve shape, and we can set our number of steps. We'll just do 3. And if we hit the center button, we have a new center button here in our nudge values. And when we hit that center button, then what it does is it offsets to both sides. And when we're offsetting to both sides, it only allows us to offset 1 step. And that is just the way that we designed it. I guess the way I looked at it is this would be useful if we're doing like 3 rows of stones for lettering or something like that. So we've limited it when you're doing both inside and outside offsets, we limit it to 1 step. And so in fact, if we go back to our original curve here and we just hit that button, it just assumes we don't even have to define the number of steps. It just assumes that we're going to only use 1 step. We're asking it to offset to the inside. And then from here, we can actually select the this path. We'll grab this one. And every time we hit the down arrow, you can see it just offset. And for me, that's how I would probably use it. Just visually, I'd offset and say, okay, yep, that's about how many offsets I want. We'll go in and add stones. And there you go. Okay. So that's how that function works. Now there is one more option. Of course, we have to make it just a little bit more difficult, and so that last option here is this little checkbox. And when we hit that little checkbox, what that will do is that will split the difference. So in other words, if we hit our down arrow, what that actually does is it gives us half the value on both sides. All right, so now when we hit add stones, you'll see, if I grab the right 2 paths, anyhow, so let's go back to our original path here. All right, so there's our original path. We'll choose that option. And so if I select let's go ahead and get rid of this path. If I select these 2 paths and hit add stones, now you can see the spacing between those 2 stones are perfect. So when that checkbox is checked, what it's doing is it's taking half of this offset value to the inside, half of this outside offset value to the outside, and that would give us 2 rows of stones in that particular scenario. So there are lots of different types of situations where that could be useful. For example, let's just take, for example, a simple circle here. And I'm just going to add a couple of nodes and choose breakout nodes. And we're going to delete. So now we just have this letter C here. So what I could do if I wanted this to be 3 rows of stones, then what I could do is I could just go 1 to the offset, to the outside, 1 to the inside. I could do something like that and then add stones. Okay, and I'd have three rows of stones for my lettering. Now, if I go back to my original here, if I want to use the new offset function, then I could just click that middle button, and that gives me the same thing. It gives me the same 3 rows that I could then add stones to. Or if I choose this option, and then I hit the center, then you can see what's going to happen. These two outside black lines, if I add stones to them, then that's going to give me perfectly 2 stones offset, which is exactly what I want. And then I can come in here and delete our stone paths, and that leaves me with just the 2 rows of stones on my letter C. So that new offset function will be quite useful for you. It's been a long time coming, but now we have that additional functionality built in here for you. So that's really all I wanted to share with you up to this point. Like I said, we have quite a few new functions here in Easystone, but I think you'll find that the new offset functionality with open paths will be quite useful for you. We have the new selection feature where we can throw different selections into storage and then recall all those selections that we put into storage. We can recall them all at one time. That will be quite useful. The new mirror function for when you're working with symmetrical designs, that definitely makes that functionality a lot easier. And you'd be surprised that the number of people that I talk to when they're first learning design work, how complicated it is to figure out how to mirror something. It sounds easy enough, but when there's so many steps involved, you know, holding your control key and grabbing the right control handle and flipping it and right clicking to make a duplicate and on and on and on. There's a lot of individual steps, and now it's just select your design, set your mirror pivot point, and click on the mirror button, and it flips it, checks for duplicate stones. It does all that for you automatically. And of course, I think you'll also find that the new offset functionality here, when you're offsetting from one stone size to another, having that automatically calculated for you, so you get the perfect amount of offset, will be a welcome addition as well. So lots more to share with you, but like I said, I want to just share that initial basic functionality, and we hope to get this version into your hands here in just a few weeks. We'll get all these new functions, making sure they're all up to par, and making sure everything works with CorelDRAW X5, 6, and 7. So you'll be able to experiment for a couple of months, all the new functionality. And we'll have some other videos coming down the road showing some additional new functionality here in version 4, but that give you a little teaser of some of the functionality that I'm really excited about, because I think it'll be super useful for you. Thanks for watching.